My name is Dr. Sillers. Actually, my clients, most of them just called me Jim. I grew up in North Branch. My grandparents' families homesteaded in North Branch. I started working in Imlay City in January 1973 at the Imlay City Veterinary Clinic. I wanted to participate in this community project because I believe in philanthropy, community service, helping others, and hopefully people who are listening to this might be motivated to do the same thing. We're in a very unique community. In the 80s, when I was purchasing the Imlay City Veterinary Clinic, the interest rates were around 20%. If you had $100,000 invested in 7.5 years, simple interest, it turned into $1 million. Trying to borrow money with no collateral, I was laughed at. I had a little runaround boat, and I kept it at Mrs. Carpenter, Mrs. Abraham's garage. And in the spring, I went to pick it up, and she says, "Jim, you seem a little down." And I said, "I have this money that I need to borrow. I've always paid my bills, and no one will even talk to me." And she says, "Jim, if I'd known you needed the money, I would have loaned it to you." And I realized there's a number of people in our community would do the same thing. I'd only done vet work for Edith twice. She was probably early 70s, Bill, early 70s. They had both lost their spouse, and neither one had children. And they were dating, and they did eventually marry, but they loaned me this money just on a handshake. Another unique thing about living in the Imlay City community. We are a small community. I volunteer at the Butterfly Garden, and I needed some supplies, and I went into the Imlay City hardware store. And I picked up the supplies, but being locally, the clerks always chat with you, want to know what I was doing with these supplies, and I said they're for the Butterfly Garden. And they said, "Well, since you're volunteering most of your time or so much time and work there, let us just donate this to the cause. This is something you would not get from a large community." And that's one of the reasons why I like living in Imlay City. I'm connected to Imlay City through the Rotary Club, the Four County Community Foundation, my church, washing dishes at the soup kitchen, as I've already mentioned, working at the Butterfly Garden, and Seven Ponds Nature Center. So there are several things that keep me grounded in the community. A specific story I would like to tell. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I met a homeless man in Imlay City, and he wanted a job, but he couldn't get one because his identification card had expired. To get that, he needed an address. So the refuge would provide that address. I drove him over. We made those arrangements. I went to the Secretary of State's, and him and I were the only two in there with 4 clerks. And the lady said, "Did you make an appointment online today?" And I said, "No, because I didn't know when I would be here." She said, "Well, we have no appointments today." And I realized that we're the only two there. I said, "Well, you know, he's homeless. He doesn't have transportation." She looked at her screen for quite a while, and she said, "But there are no appointments today." So I went into the bathroom. When I came out, I realized she's just doing her job. She has no power. There's no reason to get, upset with her. But I asked again, and she stared at the screen. And then she said, "There are no appointments today, but I can get you one at 10:20 on Friday." The reason I tell that story is that Imlay City is still not that rigid. We had a rule that small animals had to come into the clinic. We had to start that rule and enforce it because of all the things that happen when you try to treat a small animal at the person's home. And I can tell many stories where I got bit, not literally, but figuratively, by the client because I weakened and agreed to go out and was reminded why we have this rule. But one day there was a lady caught. She was very polite, very persistent. She had some cats she wanted euthanized. And our receptionist just couldn't get it across that she's got to bring them in. So they finally came to me, and I looked and I said, well, in 2 days I'm driving by her house. Just make the appointment then. I know I'll take the responsibility, whatever will happen. When I got there, knocked on the door, she opened the door, handed me the check, thanked me. She said, the cats are in the milk house. My husband passed away. I have no family. I need to go into assisted living, and I just cannot leave knowing that these cats would have to just fend for themselves. And from then on, when I broke the rules, and shame on them, I would just say to myself, shame on you. But I always remembered the one time I went out of my way. And fortunately, Imlay City is a community where there are many people that can tell you that same story, where they went out of their way, bent the rules a little bit, just to help their fellow man.